Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the RapChat podcast. Before we get into the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Click on the notification bell. If you're listening on audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a review, please. We really appreciate those. 5 stars, please. The reviews really go a long way, and it means a lot to us. And on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you can find us on all social media platforms at RapChat Podcast. We're, try to post clips of the show every week. I think those are going to be picking up come playoff time. Going to get a lot of engagement going on there. I'm your host, Sam Kenny, and this looks a little different right now. We are, Elias and Luke are not here. It's Easter weekend. People have family stuff going on. But it's the playoffs, so I think our plan is during the playoffs to recap every game. At the end of the game, every Raptors game. I think the next recap should be myself and Elias. Then we should be back with all three of us to recap the games. So you can listen to our recap, little half-hour recap, depending on how important the game is. You can listen to the next morning. I think that'll be a really nice way to go. All right, let's get into it. I'm recording this just after the Raptors fell to the 76ers in Game 1. They fell 131 to 111 in Philadelphia. Philly now leads the series 1-0. I'll say one thing before we get into it. I watched this game with such little stress compared to years past. And I think that's to do with two things. I think firstly, the Raptors won a championship 3 years ago. And I just think, we got over that hump, the stress of the LeBroncho years and all that. That's gone now, right? Like the Raptors have won it all. That's why you watch basketball, and obviously you're cheering for more championships. But I think that getting over the hump on that first one and it being still so recent, I think everything now is just kind of gravy on top of that. I'm sure it'll be different in 10 years, but the fact that I can say I've seen a Raptors championship during my life has made this game and even the bubble playoffs much less stressful. Second reason is the Raptors are underdogs. It may seem that 76ers are a weaker team. They've got real weaknesses. They're not necessarily a strong 4 seed. The Raptors are still a 5th seed, right? The 76ers are still the favorite, and I think it's important to know to keep that in mind as Raptors fans that we're the underdogs here, right? We're fighting. We're not supposed to win this. Philly's supposed to go and win Game 1 as the upper seed at home. And I think that, kind of contributed to, my lack of stress, even though there are probably things to be stressful about in this one, including Scotty Barnes. And I guess we'll get that out of the way now. Scotty went down with they're calling it a sprained left ankle. He had negative results on his x-ray, which is great. He's getting an MRI tomorrow. That's all from Nick Nurse and Adrian Wojnarowski. That released a lot of stress. He might miss time, but the fact that it's not broken, the fact that it looked really bad. It happened in the third quarter. He was kind of digging down on Embiid in the middle of the floor. Embiid kind of spun over, landed on his foot, unintentionally, obviously. And Scotty went down in a lot of pain, had to be kind of helped off the court. And he was big tonight, and that's going to be a big loss if he has to miss even one game, right? That's a big loss. That's one of your 4 probably best players in this series, someone who had a really good game. But yeah, we'll get that really negative part of the way. That's the only thing I'm truly worried about after this game. The key problems in this one was the Raptors couldn't contain the Sixers on the defensive end. They let the other team score 131 points in a playoff game. That's frankly unacceptable. That's such a high scoring playoff game. The fact that the Raptors even scored 111 is kind of high. For example, earlier in the day, Dallas, Utah won 99-93, and those are two pretty strong defensive teams going at it, and that's kind of what I expect from the Raptors. Especially a team where we're gonna have to win on our defense in the playoffs, right? We're gonna have to win some ugly games. And 131 points isn't acceptable in that end, and I think it comes down to a few reasons. Number one, our inside defense really just wasn't there tonight, and it came in a couple of fronts. The first, obviously, being Joel Embiid. He had a pretty dominant game in a very Joel Embiid-like fashion. He only had 5 field goals, 5 for 15. He finished with 16 or 19 points, sorry, and 15 boards, 4 assists. 4 of those boards coming on the offensive end. But it was just he got to the line. He got to the line 11 times, hit 9 of them. The Raptors really didn't have an answer for him. It was a soft whistle, I will say that. The whistle wasn't necessarily a playoff level whistle, but you can't, the whistle wasn't responsible for all 20 of those points, right? So Joel was able to get inside. For the most part, the Raptors, had a mixture of Precious, Scotty, Kem while he was in the game on him. Pascal a little bit. But Embiid was able to catch down low so many times and just get easy finishes. He was when the guards collapsed the defense, Embiid was there for a lot of putbacks, and then he was just able to kind of prey upon the Raptors' inexperience, their young guys' inexperience, guys like Boucher and stuff, and draw fouls to get to the free throw line. That's Joel Embiid's at his best when he's dictating the whistle, when he's dictating the physicality of a game, and he did that all night long. Second thing defensively was our inability to contain Philly's guards, James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey had a unreal game, 38 points on 14 of 21 shooting, 5 for 8 from 3. He was so, the fact, you could see Tyrese Maxey going off and doing it by getting to the rim, right, using his speed, getting to the floater area. But he was so hot. He hit 5 threes, right? He hit a deep heat check 3 in the third quarter. Way over Precious. You just got to tip your cap to that. There's nothing you can do about that. But you can do something about him getting inside. And I think the Raptors, for as good as Fred VanVleet is on the defensive end, he does struggle with the quick guards, with quick first steps. We've seen that with Tyrese. We've seen that in the past when Dame Lillard is at his best. Guys like Trae Young usually kind of have their way with Fred. Fred is a lot better with the Steph Currys of the world, right? When he's running off screens, taking angles off screens, he struggles a little more with the straight line drives. And Maxey took full advantage of that and took advantage of Gary Trent as well, who really struggles to guard the drive without fouling. He just doesn't have the lateral quickness that lockdown perimeter defenders have. And Maxey was able to get to the rim whenever he wanted, whether it was off of, actions run for him, pick and roll, empty side pick and rolls. They'd flatten out for him a couple times, or it was him, attacking off the catch after the defense was already collapsed and just taking advantage of a routine defense. Maxey preyed on that all night. Harden, pretty dominant night in a very Harden-esque fashion. 22 and 14 assists, only 6 for 17 from the field, 6 for 7 from the free throw line. Harden did a great job. He was getting inside whenever he wanted, and that was the worrisome thing for me. James Harden's lost a lot of that first step that made him so elite in his Houston days, and I just think I would like to see more OG Anunoby on him. I would honestly like to see a little bit more Fred VanVleet on him and to use that strength factor. Harden was just there was Scotty Barnes that had a hard time staying in front of him, and when Harden's getting into the paint, he's still an elite. If his finishing's gone down a bit, he's still an elite passer. And he was just spraying out to shooters. And credit the Sixers role players. They hit shots tonight. And James Harden's 3-point shot was falling. And when his 3-point shot's falling and when he's able to get to the paint and create for others, you're going to have a long night. He scored 2 points inside the arc. But I thought he was, other than Maxey, their best offensive player tonight. He, and here's the thing with Harden. And here's why I'm not, what I'm looking for in game 2. And it's the Raptors found a lot of success in our last matchup against Philly, just kind of hard switching everything, and that does 2 things, especially against their guards. Maxey's a little harder just because his pure speed is just a whole other level. But with Harden, is he loves to pick on that weak link, and the Raptors have some weak links. Scotty Barnes laterally isn't quite there. Gary Trent Jr. Against a guy like Harden is pretty liable to foul, as we saw. He fouled Harden on a 3 reaching in, and Harden's going to take advantage of that every time. But I think by switching, you limit Harden's ability to manipulate the defense, and you almost take away his playmaking, part of his playmaking aspect of his game. And you're almost forcing him, right? You're coaxing him, taking that step back 3 into settling, into not getting into the paint, kicking out to wide open shooters, right? You'd rather James Harden taking that contested step back 3. And I'm okay with guys like Precious or Pascal or OG or Fred. Like, I'm okay with all those guys switching onto James Harden. I think those guys can handle their own, and I think we saw that. how it really tired him out having to like go against a flat set defense every time. He's just not that guy anymore. So I'd like to see a lot more switching in general from the Raptors. I think just come playoff time, it's hard to execute that scheme that they have. I'd like to see, double Embiid hard, but everyone else, you just kind of switch everything else, especially with those lineups with Precious on the floor and with guys like Gary Trent off the floor. I think you can do that a lot more. All right, let's look to the Raptors side of things. Not all bad. And there's two guys I really want to highlight who did a great job on the offensive end, and it was almost like a tale of two halves for them. The first half was kind of Scotty Barnes' half on the offensive end. He was aggressive early. He was hunting out mismatches with guys like Danny Green and Tobias Harris on him. Getting to the line. He got to the line 9 times in 31 minutes, hit 7 free throws. He was fearless attacking guys like Embiid at the rim, and I think that's super important. There's not going to be clean looks or that many clean looks in the playoffs series, especially for inside players like Scotty Barnes. And the fact that he, there was an obvious emphasis to involve him early, because if Pascal is getting guarded by, Embiid, or he's getting shade, all those defenders shading towards him, Scotty's going to have some mismatches. And, frankly, Danny Green just can't guard him. So I loved seeing Scotty aggressive early. I thought he had a great game before he got hurt. 15, 10, and 8. Your playoff debut was really, really not too bad, and only two turnovers. The Raptors in general were pretty good with the ball today, turning it over. Then the guy at the second half, two guys, but one guy in particular was Pascal Siakam. First half, it wasn't bad in the first half, but the Sixers were basically, they were changing their primary defender on him. It was Niang at times. It was Embiid for a lot more than I expected early in the game. But even they were fine having a guy like Harden on him or a guy like Tobias on him, just because they were shading so many defenders his way, right? When Pascal had the ball, it was, they were okay with him settling for the mid-range shot, and he knocked down a few of those, and they were really nice. But they were just basically, their game plan was Pascal's not getting to the rim, and we're going to force him to kick out to shooters or dump off to cutters because we're not getting beaten by drives, because Pascal's killed the Sixers on drives all year. And I think in that first half, I think he was almost a little too hesitant. Just sort of, getting the feel of things, right? Picking out the defense. And I don't blame him, right? You don't want to drive into 4 guys in the first quarter, right? So, he tried to get his other teammates involved. It wasn't working great, especially Gary and Fred had a tough first half shooting the ball. OG had a bit of a tough, or it wasn't just that involved in the first half, and you weren't getting much from any of the other supporting guys, offensively, other than Scotty. And so that's why I think the offense looked really tough in that first half. But second half, Pascal kind of, settled down and took his time and really, I think, started relying on that in-between area, going to his hook shot, going to his push shot. And, he really settled into a groove in that second half. He finished the game with 24 and 7 assists on 19 of 18 shooting, or 9 of 18 shooting, sorry. That's really good. Come play up, with the attention he's getting, you could, and 3 blocks, right? He was great on the defensive end, except for a little bit of foul trouble. I'll take that from Pascal every single night. I thought he was really great at manipulating the defense. He made the right pass almost every single time. But the Sixers' game plan's obvious, right? Their game plan is, we're going to let other guys beat us. And if we're going to lose, we're going to lose knowing that we didn't lose to Pascal Siakam. And I think Pascal's the type of player, he's big enough, right? He can get a shot up over 2 guys. He can score even with that amount of coverage on him. And he's a great passer, right? So, and I think he found a nice balance in the second half. He had some great tacks to the rim. He got to the line 5 times, converted all 5. His in-between finishing was great. I thought, really, really positive night from Pascal on both ends. And then OG Anunoby, really nice second half. First half, a little bit, not too involved. I think he hit his first 3. But he gave you 20 points, 7 boards, and 2 assists. I thought his defense was really solid. And offensively, he had a few beautiful drives, a couple nice pull-ups. He knocked down 2 of his 5 threes. I don't think, 7 inside the arc shots bakes by OG. 7 for 10 from inside is super, super promising, especially in a playoff game, right, where the Sixers are really packing the paint. And that's going to be important going forward, right, especially if Scotty's going to miss some time or is not going to be 100%. Against this team, with the attention Pascal gets, a guy like OG is going to really have to take on a big scoring role. And I think it also considering the trouble I think some of the guards have with the length on the wings of Philly. I think OG can really take advantage of that, and really, really promising second half. Exactly what you need to see from him. We've said, all year that OG's got to be the third best guy. He's the X factor for any sort of playoff success the Raptors want, and he did what I wanted to see tonight, especially in that second half. Some beautiful drives by him. Some other guys, the backcourt. Fred, I thought had a good game. He fouled out. He was dealing with foul trouble sort of all game. Defensively, he had some nice, classic Fred dig downs. I thought he did struggle with the athleticism and of Tyrese Maxey, and I would like to see, I wouldn't mind throwing Fred. I understand I don't mind him on Harden, but I wouldn't mind, having him as a little more of an off-ball rover and being that, guy who digs down on Embiid. Even though he doesn't have the length as some of the doubles we throw at Embiid, I think he can really, disrupt things on that end. Or maybe he's the third guy you throw at Joel. So I think there's a chance to kind of reimagine Fred's role in defense in this series. Offensively, he shot the 3-ball well, 4 for 7 for 3. You can't ask for much better than that. A couple of really nice finishes, a couple of nice pull-ups. I guess you maybe want to see him be a little more aggressive, especially with Pascal. With the coverage he's getting, I thought there might have been some chances for Fred to control the offense a little more. But game one, I think he'll feel it out as the series goes on. Gary Trent, really tough game. Really tough game on both ends. 2 for 11 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3. I think both those came in the second half. Got to the line 4 times. Gary. This is the thing with Gary, right? He's a streaky shooter. He is gonna have these games where it looks really bad. He's gonna have, I know he'll probably have a playoff game where he's gonna go, 4 for 6 or 4 for 7 from 3, right? And you're trying to bank on that. You wish you could get some consistency on the other end because he looked pretty lost on the defensive end tonight. He struggled to keep guys in front of him. He struggled off ball with rotations. I think, I really just want to see that 3-point consistency from Gary, right? I don't care about the inside the arc stuff at all. He's getting left open too. The Sixers, they're guarding him, but they're not, he's not bringing up a crazy amount of gravity, and the shots are there for him. You just got to knock him down. And you got to see a little more consistency on the defensive end. It was a little bit of a tough showing for Gary tonight. But I'm sure he'll bounce back. I think there's there's obvious, low hanging fruit for him to bounce back. I think the defense, just be a little bit better. I think he can be put in some better positions. And I wouldn't mind, maybe a few less minutes from him. He only actually played 26 tonight, which, that's actually pretty decent. Because there's another guy who played really well tonight, and that was Precious Achiuwa. Really tough first half. He looked rushed, looked a bit like first half Precious on both ends. He was a little bit all over the place, first career, big playoff minutes. Second half, though, he settled down, and he was awesome. Both ends. Hit 2 threes. He had a beautiful defensive stand on James Harden where he stuck with him the full drive and then stood him up in the floater range and blocked him. Classic Precious defensive half. It was just, dominant, really. And on the offensive end, I thought he made a few great decisions in transition. I thought he made those actually all game. And, I thought he shot the 3-ball well. 2 for 4 from 3 in a playoff game for Precious Achiuwa. I'm taking that every single day. That's amazing. I'll take 1 3 from him in a playoff game like this. And I think there is an opportunity to see, the starters with Gary out of the starting lineup, or maybe not Gary necessarily. He'll probably start still, but I'd like to see Precious get run with Fred, Pascal, OG, and, hopefully Scotty. I think Precious really unlocks the Raptors' ability to switch on the defense. He gives, Embiid, gave it to him a lot tonight. He used his size on him. Precious is a big dude, but Embiid's just a whole different, size. Like Precious just isn't there, and that's not even a fault of his own. But I think he, gives us a real opportunity to send, longer switches at Joel or longer doubles at Joel. I loved him guarding Harden. I think I would love that as a wrinkle to throw in there. Him be the primary primary defender on James. I think that's, for a couple of possessions, I think that could really make a difference. But yeah, I thought, Precious at second half was really, really promising, something you can take into the next game. And then Chris Boucher, when he was on the court, he played pretty well. Just 6 fouls for Chris. He got a couple of tough calls. Chris Boucher game, though, tried super hard. 3 for 3 from the fields. played some solid defense, but he was getting pushed around a bit down low. You like to see the rebounding be up there a little bit more. The Raptors on a whole struggled to rebound on both ends, and that's another thing offensively. The Raptors really didn't take advantage of the offensive glass, right? And that's the Raptors' whole offensive, game plan almost, right? Is to get more possessions than the other team because we're not the most efficient offensive team. And the Sixers aren't a great defensive rebounding team. They're about middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack. And I thought there were some real opportunities for us to take advantage of that, and we just kind of couldn't. Some of that might be to Kem Birch got hit in the nose early in the game again. He was able to come back, but he's a pretty big piece to the offensive rebounding. And Thad Young, who hurt his finger, I think the X-rays came back negative on that as well, which is great. But he only got to play 5 minutes, and he's another big piece to that offensive rebounding. And I think that's a real area that the Raptors can exploit. I think that's actually essential. I don't think they win this series without it. And they're going to need those O boards, right? Those grimy offensive possessions. And Pascal tonight, no O boards, OG 2, but Cam none, and Precious and Chris only 1 each, right? You need more than that. And the Sixers, they were able to really exploit the offensive rebounds on the other end. Joel was dominant down there. Harden had a few. There was a bunch of offensive rebounds by guys like Thibault and Tobias Harris. But stuff to clean up, and I think that's why I'm not crazy. Worried for game 2. I've got a lot of trust in Nick Nurse. He's shown time and time again he can make in-series adjustments. With the best of them. Doc Rivers, on the other hand, kind of doesn't, but he hasn't shown that he has to make any adjustments. His team played awesome. But I think the Raptors are going to come out. I would like to see, a switchier defense. You hope Scotty's okay, but, you'd hope, Gary can knock down some more threes. I'd like to see OG take, a few more threes just to spread that defense out a little bit more for Pascal. Because on the other end, the Sixers role players, those guys hit threes, and the Raptors, they were okay with letting them shoot threes. It was kind of Danny Green, for example, right? The Raptors let him take as many threes as he want, and he went 0 for 5, right? And they're banking on that. But the other end of that is Tobias Harris went 3 for 5. Tyrese Maxey, right, not an elite 3-point shooter, went 5 for 8. The Raptors were okay with him shooting those. George Niang, 2 for 3. Thibault hit his only 3, right? You're not going to bank on that every night. And then Shake Milton hit his only 3. And those guys really stepped up for the Sixers, right? Those are the guys that the Raptors are trying to, their idea tonight was, we're going to try to shut down the superstars. Their superstars came through, and their role players also came through to push them over the finish line, and especially Tyrese. He's the player of the game. He had an unreal game for Tyrese Maxey again. Hurts a little bit knowing that he was almost a Raptor, but Precious played great as well. So, I think that might wrap it up. I think we're gonna try to keep these kind of short. Game 1. I'm sure a lot of people don't want to fret on this one too much. I like to remind you, right? It's just game 1. The Raptors, won the Eastern Conference Finals in 2019, down 2-0. It'll be all right. I expect adjustments to be made coming out of next game. I'm hoping Scotty's all right, or I'm hoping it's just like a 1-game absence. But other than that, I think there's real opportunities for the Raptors to change the course of the series. It's 1 game. The defense is going to get better. It almost can only get better. But if I want to give some stars of the game out, there's Tyrese Maxey's the number 1 star. I think I'd give James Harden the 2nd star. I thought he had a really nice night for all the hate he's got, from me included. Right, he hasn't looked great, but he came out, really settled down that Sixers offense. The Raptors had trouble dealing with his playmaking, and then when that 3-point shot's falling, James Harden, he's one of the best scorers of all time for a reason. And 3rd star, I'll give it to Pascal Siakam. I thought he was that second half. That's what you do as the team superstar. He did what he could tonight, and I thought he did a really nice night. I expect him to be even better next game, right? When he knows exactly what he's going to see from the Sixers, based on their coverages. And I expect the Raptors to have a much better showing next game. But yeah, the Raptors fall 131-111 to the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 1 from Philly. Game 2 is on Monday night. Then we'll have the reaction podcast for that. Myself and Elias will be on that one. We'll be on Tuesday morning. You can listen to that. All right, I'm your host, Sam Kenny. Before we leave, I'd love if you like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube. If you're listening, leave us a review. Rate us 5 stars, please. You can follow us on social media at RapChat Podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And I'll see you next time. Peace.